Guys, welcome back to the podcast. And today we've got special guest Khifie West. So, Khifie, do you want to start off by telling us just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much for, of course, having me on. I am a DFAC pro bodybuilder. I have been competing now for coming up to, I think, 6 years. It'll be going into my 6th year anyway. First competed back in 2017 when I was a teen. Went through obviously my junior years. I was able to gain my card out of the junior category, which, don't get me wrong, I'm super blessed about, and I was so grateful to jump out of the junior division and obviously become a DFAC pro. But at the same time, it was also like, well, now I'm kind of up against people who are like double my age and things like that, and I've been doing it for double the time that's been obviously I've been doing it. But at the same time, that kind of pushes me on to know where I do stand against the very best of the best. So that is another reason why I'm super grateful for it.
Was that a dig at Davey Hanna there? Someone double your age?
Yeah, what's that?
Was that a dig at Davey Hanna there? Someone double your age?
Mate, I don't even think Davey Hanna is. I think Davey Hanna's actually triple my age.
What age are you?
I'm 25.
25,
so,
yeah.
Probably I think Davey Hanna's like closing in on 80. I was sure he told me last time I seen him.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway,
probably never going to speak to me ever again. But
I don't know if he's a listener. To be fair,
I reckon Davey Hanna's a listener.
Your first show though, that was 2017. So did you do BNBF first, or did you do anything before that?
It was actually the NABA Scotland. So it was NABA Scotland was a week before the BNBF Scottish.
Yeah.
So that was kind of where, and there was in the leisure centre that I used to train at, there was only ever NABA posters in it. There was this like one guy that always done NABA shows, so the NABA Scotland poster was always up in the gym. So that was like why I was kind of inclined to go to that, because I knew literally zero about bodybuilding. So I was like, right, that's a bodybuilding show, I'm just gonna do that. And then I found out that the BNBF Scottish was literally the week after it. So I was like, well, I'm gonna be in half decent shape, so I might as well just kind of jump into that one as well. But since I'd done the BNBF Scottish, then it's just been I just have done BNBF and that DFAC shows from there. So I never carried on with like NABA shows or anything like that.
It makes sense, being natural, to stick with the natty feds, to be fair. Although there's a lot of people kind of crossing over now. But I remember seeing you at that show. I remember seeing you as a teen. I got up on stage for the Taps Half that year, actually, and I remember being fat as fuck, and I'm like, shit, I shouldn't have done that. But I remember seeing you there, and it's like crazy to see like how far you've come since then, really. And what was the kind of next move after that then? So you done the Scottish that year. Did you compete at the British finals that year?
Yeah, I went on to the Britain, and I got second at the Britain, and then went out to got the opportunity to go to the Worlds. And because it was like my first year, I was kind of like just trying to embrace the most out of everything. Because to be fair, like I wasn't even sure if I was going to really like it, because it was a case of I trained for around 4 years before it, and I was like, right, I'll do a bodybuilding show, see if I like it. If I do like it, obviously it's going to be a bonus. But went on to the Britain, got second at the Britain, and then went on to the Worlds and got team world champ at the Worlds. And obviously it ended at like a good season, but immediately I was like I was wanting to compete again. Like I came off the stage at the Worlds and I was like just wanting to compete again kind of thing. So I'd done like 4 years back to back before I took.
But you still made some amazing progress in that time, didn't you?
Yeah, that was something that I was quite like fortunate with, was definitely the improvements that I was able to make in like really short off seasons, because I was coming off of stage. Say I done like I finished at the Britain or I finished at the Worlds, you were talking like October, November coming off stage, and then starting prep again around maybe April, May time. Like to be fair, in them years until around 2019, I never ever gave myself enough time to actually prep. I was always having to push myself harder than probably what I needed to be pushed. But the progression that I was able to make within them time frames was all right. Like it carried me to where I needed to be anyway.
Yeah. What would you accredit that progress to doing? Like what were you doing that you think kind of led to that?
Oh man, I was just fucking eating anything and everything. Like my off seasons were like through 2017 to around 2019. My post workout, I don't even know if you remember, but it was always 2 boxes of cereal. It was chocolate pillows.
Yeah, I do remember them actually.
What was your top weight in the off season?
like I was on 2 boxes post-workout every single day. And it was, I think because my off seasons were that short, my appetite was never like low. It was always sky high because I was literally just out of prep. And by the time 4 or 5 months came, I was back into prep. So that was never enough time for my appetite to drop off. So post workout every day was like so easy to get in that. And obviously, again, like it was never the most nutritionally dense run of meals throughout the off season, but like I've got no regrets because it worked, and I was able to gain like kilograms and kilograms and kilograms on my stage weight year by year. So again, obviously things like my age and that obviously played a big role. Like my body was working super fast, but at the same time it done the job.
What was your peak weight in the off season?
Peak weight, to be honest with you, like it was never something that it was never really something that I took that much to do with. I was always around the kind of maybe like 35 to 45 pounds heavier than what I always was on stage. Because I always found that I usually had about at least 35 to 40 pounds to take off every single prep that I done. But at the same time, as I kind of kept taking that off, I was just finding that my body weight was going up more. And then I was, as the seasons went on, I've had to lose less weight to essentially get in shape. But obviously it's just meant that throughout my off seasons, I've been able to stay in better shape as I've went. And then obviously I've had to lose less weight as the kind of times have went on.
It's a lot easier doing that, isn't it?
It's
have you changed your approach in off season then?
What's that? Sorry.
Have you changed your approach in off season then, or are you still doing the same thing? But
now I'll eat a lot more good food. Like to be fair, and if I'm being honest with you, like I find that the good food now it makes my performance in the gym like 10 times better. And don't get me wrong, like performance was never bad, but I just never ever took that much to do with it. Back when I was like competing as a teen and maybe the first couple of years as a junior, I was literally just going into the gym and just going mental every single day. And as much as I still do that, there's a little bit like, there's a lot more structure around everything that I do now. And I think just because of experience and knowledge and things like that, like I've been able to do a lot more with the training side.
Yeah. When you say better foods, what do you mean by that? What's a kind of day of eating look like for you?
Well, so like pretty much just more nutritionally dense foods, so more like whole sources of things like proteins, carbohydrates, and that. Again, first meal in prep was obviously all my things like potatoes and oats and things like that. Oats would always be first meal, but when I moved to off season, like I think I lasted around 9 or 10 weeks with oats, and then I just genuinely could not eat them anymore. So I don't get me wrong, in my off season I'll give myself a lot more variety. I'll still eat things like sweet potato, white potato. I'll just incorporate a lot more things like rice, bagels, cereal. This is the weird thing, right? I was always a massive fan of cereal. Now I could go months without having any cereal because it's just, I don't know, there's just something there that doesn't really. I'll eat it after the show because I'm like craving them different kind of tastes. But then after that, then I could literally just kind of stick to my prep foods and the additional things like bagels and rice and things like that. Like I'm a big fan of that sort of stuff. But in terms of like typical full days, I'm waking up first thing in the morning, I'm having like bagels, turkey rashers, eggs. Then I'm really just moving on to like chicken and potato meals, chicken and rice meals. Might have another bagel meal with some sort of protein source with it as well. Post-workout recovery, and then something like white potato. And then obviously end of the day might just be something like another chicken and rice meal. If I do need it, that is, because I take quite a lot of protein in quite early on in the day. So then it means that by the back end of the day, it might just be like a carbohydrate source I'll put in for a final meal. And I won't really need anything else. I'm not really too fussed about kind of slamming like loads and loads and loads of protein because I just find it fucks my stomach up, and I just don't see the point in having to go through issues like that when I'm taking in enough kind of thing.
It's a bit more expensive as well, eating a lot of protein.
Yeah. It's like I've been talking to quite a few people lately, and they've been telling me like how they're on like anywhere between like 250 and 300 grams protein, and they're weighing like sub 200 pounds, and it's like if I was to take in upwards of 300 grams protein, man, I would die. Like my stomach would just be like, what is going on here? So every day I'm between like 220 and 240 protein, but like right now I'm sitting at around 230 pounds first thing in the morning. So that's perfect for me. And I don't really I don't have any issues with recovery or anything like that. So that's kind of the main telltale for me. See if I started struggling with things like that, and I started struggling with how I was feeling after my sessions, and things just weren't good, then I would maybe look towards upping it. But that's at least around maybe 200 to 10 grams of that is from whole sources. So that's not like
I completely
that's not like a lot of it's traced. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm probably the same as you. I get about, well, not quite as much as you, but about 180 from like complete kind of sources, and then the rest from kind of trace. But like I've never went crazy on it. I've never even tried like upwards of kind of like 250 to like 300. I've never even tried that. Bit different for James. He's on the old juice.
Yeah, I'm on 300 grams of protein a day, like from actual sources of it. So I find like I can digest it quite well. I don't have an issue with that. But when I have like any clients working up to that, they can have like big problems. So it's so like person dependent, isn't it? Like how well they can tolerate it. And digestion's like number one as well, isn't it? If they can't digest that protein, then you're not going to get really much out of it, and it's going to fuck the whole fucking training recovery up completely.
Yeah, I agree.
It's an expensive piss, isn't it?
It is.
But going back to obviously like, so where were we at there? So you kind of got you done 2017, and then you done 2018, 19, and when did you get the pro card? When did that happen?
2020.
Yeah, the COVID
so
year.
That was 4th year and final year as a junior. So
yeah. That was crazy that year, because remember, the show was meant to be September.
Yeah,
go back to November.
You were prepping on that year, weren't you?
Yeah, I got to fucking, what was it? I was 4 days out. I was on the first day of like carbing up, and I was at this stage where like it fucking hurt me to walk upstairs. My calves were getting a pump, and then I got a message. I think it was you that messaged me actually, and you're like, the show's been put off to like 4 weeks down the line, and I was just like, fuck this.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I remember that. That was
in hindsight now, I'm like, fuck, I should have just went through that last 4 weeks, and you did, and look what fucking happened. It's like one of those fucking things, but I was on death's door at that point, like, and I'm back there again now.
That was definitely the hardest part, because I can remember that it got moved first. It got moved and everybody was fine with it.
Yeah.
So then we eventually got to it, and then obviously the 4 days or 3 days before it, I'm sure it was on like the Thursday. The show was the Sunday, and then it was like, we were going into lockdown for another month, and it meant the show had to be postponed for another month. So there was still no like guarantee that it was going to go ahead, but it was like, I crumbled, like I did. That was like a big struggle, but at the same time, I was like, I think because the reason that I was competing was because every year that I'd done the Britain, I got runner up, and the year before that, 2019, there was like loads of things that was up in the air about things like the results and that, and I would never be one to jump on social media and bitch about it. I would rather just get back to the graft and do what I need to do, and that's what I did, and that's why I was so ready to get back on the Britain stage. And because obviously I had a straight invite towards the Britain anyway, it was obviously that was just what we were shooting for. So I think even if I had to do another 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever the fuck I would have had to do, I would have done it, just because of where I was at and where my head was at towards that show. But it paid off. We ended up having a good day, and then it was off season for around, I don't know, like 18 months or something like that. It was the longest off season I've ever took anyway.
It's about time. You needed that.
Yeah, definitely. So
I can say you needed that, but you didn't, because you kept coming back better and better. So the short off season comparative to the long off season, do you think you've seen a huge difference in having a longer off season?
It's a hard one, because I was definitely improved on that, obviously, from 2020 to 2022, but I don't know if I made more progress in that time than what I did in the short off seasons. But again, it's super hard to tell, because there was just loads of things happened in like 2021 as well. Like there was just loads of shit up in the air. There was just loads of issues with everything. Like general life was just shite. And because of that, I think, my off season never suffered, but I think it could have been better. And that's like now, this off season, I've been in it for, well, when was the British last year? October. So I've been in this for 8 months or something like that, maybe a little bit longer, 9 months. And like so far, I know this has been by far the best off season I've ever had. Obviously it can only get like better. You can only progress over years, but compared to any other off seasons that I've had. This has definitely been by far like the best.
You definitely can regress because I've seen people do it. But you're not one of these guys that's like fucking sushi on your wedding sort of thing. Like off season is just pure strict. Do you eat a little bit of shit in your off season?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. After this, I'm going for a Five Guys. So
you need to enjoy it though, don't you? You can't be fucking 100% year round. Your head will literally just fall off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, don't get me wrong, right? There's a lot of people that I've got a lot of respect for in the industry and that, but I'm absolutely not somebody to have sushi for an off-plan meal in the off-season. No, thank you. I would not thank you for a fucking plate of sushi.
To be fair, I like it, but it's like, it's not, I mean, it is an off-plan meal, but it's not really, if you know what I mean. It's not the fucking worst thing in the world. And if that's the worst thing you're having, if that's the worst thing you want to have, fair enough.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for me, it's like in the off-season, I'm fucking probably having a takeaway once a week. I'm probably eating shit daily, to be honest. Like I was having a fucking bar of Galaxy Caramel every night. That's hard to cut out. That is hard to cut out when it comes
bump the calories up.
Yeah. Now I have like my final meal of the day and I have a can of Pepsi Max. It's like, yeah, this is it.
That's hitting hard.
But so when's the next show for you then, Keith? When are you next prepping?
Right now, probably back end of next year, Grand Prix 24. Yeah, Grand Prix 24. I mean, I say that right now, there's no plans in place. There's no head on towards anything. I'm just taking this off season first of all as it comes. We'll see where we're at next year. And just kind of take things from there. I'm in no rush, that's the thing. Like I'm in no rush to get back up on stage. I've got nothing to prove to, obviously you never have anything to prove to anybody regardless, but I've got nothing to prove to myself or anything like that. Like I'm enjoying training. I live the lifestyle regardless. So if I don't compete for another 10 years, I'm still gonna live the lifestyle. There's nothing like that. But if I had to say a time, then we would probably look at next year, just because obviously that'll be another full year off kind of thing. So
yeah. So like going back to like obviously starting that, like the goal for you, like I've seen you talk about the Olympia stage and things like that. And is that very much the goal for you? Is that what you want to do with this?
It was the goal, and I say that because I was very much head on making that jump last year, because I just felt ready. Everything was just kind of in that position where I felt ready, and like I'm the last person to ever have anything against obviously that side, because that's bodybuilding and I love bodybuilding, and I'm the last person to have shit with that side. But when we went to the Arnold's last year, around maybe a week after the Arnold's, or I think potentially even a couple of weeks after, I actually signed with Gasp, so I did. And the main reason behind them signing me was obviously because of what I'm doing for the natural bodybuilding side of things. And that to me was quite a big, not like, it was just a big out. Like it took me a lot to kind of process all of that, because I was like a week out of competing. My head was up my arse. I was like, what is happening here? Because I was looking at like companies like that thinking, I'm only going to get looked at by a company like that if I am like just to the girls, 260 pounds shredded, like a freak. Do you know what I mean? You look at their athletes and you're like, they're all freaks, they're all Olympians, and that's like fine, that's fair enough. But it's like when they kind of came forward, that gave me a little bit more of an insight of what I was actually doing, because I just looked at it as, right, I was a natural bodybuilder, I went in and trained, I done my thing, and that was it. But at the time, there was going to become that place where I was ready to make the jump, because the goal was head on for the Olympia, and that's all. I just seen that. But then something else that kind of has pulled me back a little bit more from it has just been how prestigious something like an IFBB Pro card was, but how not prestigious it is now. Don't get me wrong, competing on a pro level is totally different to winning your pro card, right? But winning your pro card, especially an IFBB Pro card, it was like that was the pinnacle. Like you were a bodybuilder, your goal, like dream, was becoming an IFBB Pro. Now, with the way that you see IFBB Pro cards being given out, like, and even Pro cards being given out to naturals, I kind of feel as if that prestigious part of it's been taken away. Now it's just a Pro card, and
it's a lot about money, isn't it?
Yeah, like so much. Like, take it back to when there was just 1 or 2 IFBB Pro cards a year. That's when it was huge. Now, like, there's fucking thousands of pros each year. And don't get me wrong, like I say, when it comes to competing at a professional level, it's totally different. But then it's like you just become another kind of fish in this massive pond of IFBB pros, and it's like, where do you kind of, I don't know, I just lost a little bit. I lost a little bit from that side, but again, never say never. I'm not saying that I'm not going to compete for my IFBB pro card at some point. I would never say never, but right now that's kind of where my headspace is at. So
two massive reasons why, though. Definitely like with Gasp as well. That's crazy.
that was quite that was quite, because like I always wore Gasp. I always like kind of, I respected what their outlook of the industry was, and that was why I kind of was always in their clothing and stuff like that. But at the same time, if I was looking at a sponsorship with something like them, I would never have expected it until I was at least at a level where I thought that I would have had to have been to receive something like that from them. But then when they actually came forward, then it was kind of like, oh fuck, like something must be all right here. Do you know what I mean? So
I think you're doing all right. But yeah, you're right. And like going back to like that pro card thing you're saying about the IFBB stuff, like for anyone that doesn't realize, within the BNBF, to become what Khifie is, a DFAC pro, you've got to qualify for the British finals, right? So you've got a place in like what top 3 kind of thing at qualifier in your class, and then you've got to go to the British finals, and you've got to win your class there, and then you've got to beat the winner of the rest of the classes there and win the overall there. So like there's one person a year in the BNBF that becomes a pro. One person. Sometimes they've done 2 a couple of times when they've been feeling really nice, but yeah, 1 a year essentially. And so it's not an easy thing to do. And a BNBF British finals is tough lineup, isn't it? It's always a strong show, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. That's been that was like one of the things as well why it was such a big deal for that happening, because again, as much as I was still wanting to do really well at the British finals, my goal was and heart was set straight on just becoming junior British champion, because every year I'd always won the qualifier, but I'd always went to the British and I'd always got second. Like I got second for like 3 continuous years, the first few years, and then on the one before the show in 2020, that was kind of when there was just loads of shit. And then 2020 it was like, right, junior British champion, just want to box that off. That was like this major thing that I just wanted to box off, just a British title. Because like you'll know yourself, the Worlds is definitely special. Qualifiers can be really hard as well, but the British finals is where like that's essentially where the best of the best is at. So it was just like I just wanted that British title. So 2020 got it, obviously went into overall, then it was like I was not expecting to like take the overall. That was definitely a shock to the system, but it was not the worst day out. We were able to kind of have a clean sweep, and then that was it. But
then you done the pro class as well, didn't you?
yeah, so they done it for that show. They allowed the person who won the pro card to go into the pro class that night, and I was fortunate enough to win that as well, which was pretty bonkers. Because obviously I'd won the card, I was kind of just going in. I was going in with no expectations. I was going in just to have fun. Like I knew I was going to get like pushed hard. I'd already been pushed hard on the day, and obviously I was like, right, go in, have a bit of fun with everybody. Like, not place, but it's like a big moment to just be invited into that pro class instead of having to wait a year and then or compete whenever I was going to be ready. So that as well was definitely weird.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying that, and like obviously you went into that show like with the expectation of like, look, I'm going to try and win my junior class here. But like one thing that like I commend you a lot for is like your mindset. Like nothing's impossible. And like I'm kind of going more back to even just like the lifts in the gym, like some of the deadlifts and things like that you do. Talk us through a little bit about like kind of how you apply that mindset and how you went from this guy that's been training in a leisure center and fucking where's it you're from? Stranraer. Yeah. And to all of a sudden, you know, you're this DFAC pro training out the fucking best gym in the country.
Yeah, so back when I trained, obviously I came up through a leisure centre because where I stayed, there was no other gym within, say, like a 60-mile radius that I was going to be able to train out of. So realistically speaking, I was either going to have to train at the leisure centre or not train. That was pretty much how it was. So at the time I was training, I wanted to become a pro wrestler. I never wanted to become a bodybuilder. I wanted to become a pro wrestler. I wanted to be John Cena. That was literally it. And in that sense, like, I was like, right, I'm just gonna have to make this work. So I made it work, and obviously got into the wrestling and stuff like that. And through the wrestling, like, the wrestling was really, it was really disciplined to the point of, right, you had to show up even when you were shit, because when you were learning to become a wrestler, you were shit for a long time until you started kind of getting bookings for shows and promoters would start noticing you. So realistically speaking, you had to always work your way up the ranks through that. And I think because of that, I was able to then carry that throughout my training. And I got into, because in the gym and the leisure center, I didn't really have access to a lot of machines or anything like that. It was just like barbells, some dumbbells lying on the floor. And I either had to make that work, or again, I wasn't going to train. So I kind of was brought up with just your basic barbell movements, dumbbell movements. And I kind of, along that way, obviously I was fortunate enough to be blessed with some sort of level of strength to be able to work with that. But at the same time, I think the mindset towards training has always got to be way further than what you would naturally expect, because again, it came down to, there was always one thing that I'll never ever forget, that I always used to look at this guy that came in, right? He came into the gym and he wasn't natural or anything like that, right? But he just looked freaky, and I always would be like, I would just want to be like him. That was like the way I always seen it. But I'll never forget, he told me that I was never ever to have the goal to be like him. I was always to have the goal to be better than him. And I feel as if that's what's brought me up through literally anything I do, because I know there's always going to be people that's going to do more. But if I'm always shooting to be better than regardless whoever it is, I'm never shooting to be like somebody. I have my idols in bodybuilding, but I don't see anything as not possible, because I only have in my head to be that bit better. And especially nowadays, the stuff that you see throughout Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, social media in general, the limitations that people set on themselves, or the path that people take, but they'll only push themselves so far because they can't do this because of genetics. They can't do this because they're not blessed with strength, like growth behind them. They're not blessed with this. They're not blessed with that. They simply just can't do something. I think, like, if you have 0.1% of self-doubt towards not being able to do something because you think you can't do it, you never will do it. Like, I always had the goal of the Olympia, and if I wasn't in the headspace that I was in right now of how I feel about everything and with how things have changed, I would still be head on towards it. But things like training, strength and training, some of the sets that I've done in training, like, that is genuinely just my training. But that is, I don't do that because it's like, oh, right, I know I can do that. I do that because I am taking myself to places where I know that the possibility of it happening is there. And so the limitation side of things within natural bodybuilding, I just don't think exists. I genuinely don't think exists. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm going to be able to look like Big Ramy naturally, because at the end of the day, I'm not saying it in that sense. But when it comes to doing the impossible as a natural athlete, I don't think that exists. Like, I'll always get it because of the training and things like that, and some of the silly things that I've done in training. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm doing that because I want to be able to showcase what you can actually do without obviously using gear. And that then comes back to me saying that, like, I'm not doing that because I'm fucking so against gear and I hate gear and I would never use it. It's like, I'm not against it. It's just, I feel as if a lot of people like to use it as a reason on why they can't do something because they're natural, when that's just bullshit.
Absolutely. I think something is huge within the natural game. And honestly, I'll admit, I fell into that trap for a long time. And like, just even seeing some of your posts and some of the shit you say, is actually just reminds me, it's like, no, just like, you know, I'll look at the 60 kilo dumbbells and I'll say, because I'll think to myself, because I'm natural, I'm never going to fucking press them. I'm doing 50s. That's great for, like, the, you know, my weight and for me being natural, but I'm never going to do 60s. And it's like, no, fuck that. Like, when I first started training, I was pressing 15 kilo dumbbells and there was like 45s in that gym. And I was thinking, there's no way I'll ever press them. And, you know, bit by bit, like every day you go back and you get a little bit better, a little bit better. Before you know it, you're pressing those 45s. But somewhere along the way, I've just thought, well, nah, this is the fucking limit. This is about as good as it'll get. And like, it's definitely something I need to regain, because again, it's going to limit your potential within natural bodybuilding if you're limiting, you know, essentially how well you can perform in the gym, and then obviously how much muscle you're going to gain from that. But the more you perceive something to be true, the more likely it is to become true. So your thoughts, like Kai Green says, thoughts become things, don't they? How do you find that, James, on the unnatural side of things? Do you feel like there's no limit?
There's obviously a limit with everyone, isn't there? Sort of like genetics, but you just need to keep doing how well you can do. And obviously don't think there's any, it's the doubt thing, like Khifie said. Then as soon as you have any doubts, then everything's going to go to shit. And just thinking what's the worst that could happen. So you just put a big negative spin on it. So you just got to think positive and literally do the best that you can do, and then see where it gets you.
Yeah. And what do you do,
100%.
Khifie, on those days where, like, or do you get those days where progress doesn't go your way? Because your Instagram's all about huge PRs, and you know every day seems to be a huge PR. But is there those days where it doesn't go your way?
There's hundreds of them days, and that's definitely something else. Like, I'm a realist when it comes to, I know I'm not going to progress every single day. I know I'm not going to be able to fucking beat numbers every single day, but it's something that I can really only use as like something that I like to kind of pride myself by, as well as just being able to show up every single day, because I've done this almost 10 years now, training wise. It's like 9.5 years or something like that. And there's probably been more sessions that I've had that I've not progressed over sessions that I have progressed. But I feel as if that's only because I'm at a level now where it's not the easiest thing on the planet to like top a 320 triple off the floor. Do you know what I mean? I'm at that point now where that is becoming hard. Don't get me wrong, on loads of other movements that's maybe non-major taxing compound movements, I probably am progressing on them, but I don't track them. I go by how I feel. I'm training on feel every single day. So I'm not actually going in and kind of using a logbook to know what I've done the week prior. And that, don't get me wrong, obviously on my bigger movements, and I know what I've done before. Like, we're not daft at the end of the day. We know what we've done on them. So it's a case of always trying to do a little bit more, but I'm always working in different rep ranges as well. Again, working in different rep ranges, taking them to failure. I love things like intensifiers, so drop sets, rest, pause sets, and things like that. So again, that kind of puts me in that place of not tracking that much, just because I'm doing lots of things like drop sets and that, in which, again, when I trained out of the leisure centre, there was a guy that used to work in there, or actually I think he still does work in there, but when I trained in there anyway, he would always come and like help me put me through my sessions and stuff like that. So it was constant drop sets, it was constant like high volume work, like 3-4 sets each movement, and they were like fucking tough sets. But that is another reason, like, I was not really ever interested in tracking training or anything like that. So don't get me wrong, there's been, I think because of that, I know there's loads of sessions that I don't progress in, but I just don't kind of like, I don't beat myself up if I go into the gym and I don't feel as good as what I felt like, say, the week before, because at the end of the day, I know there's going to be sessions like that. And I've definitely been in that kind of, I've been in that position before where, say, I've went into deadlift and I've had something in my head and it's just not went to plan. And I've been in that position before where I've kind of been like, oh, fuck this. Like, I've been like sad about it. I've been genuinely like upset about it. But then I'm so over days like that now, where it's like, just get over it and move the fuck on. Like, there's going to be another session tomorrow. There's going to be a session the next day. You're going to deadlift next week again. Like, it is what it is. So the way that I look at it is like, if I go into the gym and don't progress, I'm not going back the way. If I still show up in that session and I still give what I've got on that day, then I'm fine with that. But I won't not show up. I won't just wake up and be like, oh, like I'm fucked today. Like, I'm not gonna go in and fucking deadlift, or I'm not gonna go in and say like do legs, or I'm not gonna go in and do something, because that again comes back to me as like doubt within myself. So I need to at least show up. I need to at least do what I need to do and go in. And if I go in and it goes tits up, then it goes tits up. But I would feel a lot worse if I left it, or if I went in and kind of was like, right, I'm feeling horrendous today, so I'm just going to pull back. I'll still go in with confidence. I'll still go in with my head on, and really whatever happens, happens. But like I say, like there's loads of sessions where I'll go in and not do more. the thing with something like Instagram is Instagram's definitely just a highlight reel. Like Instagram's always going to see the big lifts. Instagram's always going to see the good things, but there's definitely a lot of days where I'm going in and I don't really take anything major from the session that you would put up against the 300 kilo deadlift and be like, oh fuck, that's amazing. Like there's lots of sessions where I go in and lift nowhere near that, but it's just really because I train by how I feel. That's really why I'm not really that arsed about going in and getting upset about not beating a logbook number.
That's cool. I think touching on that then, for me myself, the last like year or so, I've definitely come away from logbooking because there's so many things that can affect your like performance in the gym, whether it's like sleep, nutrition, all of the shit like that. So I think it's pretty useless as long as you're like in those rep ranges and failing in those rep ranges, then it's cool. If you're just going into the gym to chase like one specific number, saying right, you got 8 1 week, want to get 9 the next, then you're just gonna lead yourself to getting like fucked up, injured, or anything like that. So it's something like I didn't really do with my clients anyway. I always stuck within the ranges, but myself, I was always thinking, right, go in the gym, chasing numbers, writing down shit. But it's always stemmed from the like high intensity like days and all the JP stuff. Not like, don't get me wrong, it is good, that stuff, and it really got me into the bodybuilding, but there's only so far that's going to take you before you end up getting fucked up.
I think it was interesting you said that as well, like, because there is every second guy you see in the gym at the minute, like they've got a fucking logbook with them. And again, I'm similar to you, James. Like I went through a period of doing it, mostly because my memory is fucking shit and I have no idea what I've done in each lift. But like I went through a period of doing it, and again, you come away from it because it's just there's so many variables. But what about like sets and reps, Khifie? Are you like, do you come in and you're like, right, I've got 3 sets of 10 on this, or is it more intuitive, like you were saying?
Yeah, I'll kind of go in and I'll go by how I feel most times. Like, don't get me wrong, I've went through a big phase of doing like top and back off sets, so I'll go in and I'll not have a specific rep range on them, but I'll know I'm going in to do a top set and a back off. So say for example, I'm going in to do like a chest supported T-bar row. I'll go in and look at like say a minimum set of 6 reps. Like I don't really like doing anything unless I'm doing something with a barbell. You'll never see me do less than 6, 8, 10 reps. I'm always one to keep them above that. So say I'm doing like a top set, I'll work up and try and do, it could be like, it could literally be a set of 6, but it could also be like a set of 10. And then like if I was doing a back off set or a down set or whatever, I would then say drop just a little bit off it, and then just again go until I can't go anymore. But I'll always try and drop off enough to know that I'm going to get like at least maybe another 5, 6 reps on top of what my top set was. And then again, I'll gauge it by that. So I might just do 2 sets on something, but then I might move to something else and might be feeling a little bit like better from it. And I might do 3 sets on that, I might do 4 sets on it, just depending on again how I am feeling. But what I found recently is I've been doing a lot more kind of like pyramid sets up the way. So I'll do a set of like say 8 to 12, and then I'll go up and wait. I'll look for 8 to 12 again. I'll go up and wait, look for 8 to 12 again. And pretty much when I get to a point where I've done like a really fucking hard set of like 8 to 12, I'll be like, right, that's me. I'll just move on now.
That's what Jay Cutler used to do, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty similar. Yeah.
I kind of I have this thing where it's like if I go on an exercise and like even deadlifts, for instance, done deadlifts the other day. I seen an old video of me doing 180 for 15, and I was like a fair bit heavier back then. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna try it again, see if I can get it. Got fucking 14 because I didn't count right. But anyway, this way, I was pretty fucking minced after that. I had nothing left, and I was like, you know what, that's deadlifts done. I don't need to do anything else. But some days I'll maybe do a set, and it'll maybe not be quite as intense as that, and I'll be like, well, I'll do another one then. So like, I kind of go till I think I've rinsed that movement, and then I'm like, right, on to the next one. Sometimes that might be 1 set, sometimes that might be 5 sets, but it just totally depends. But then clients, when you set them up and you're putting on a program, you've got to give them something to go by. But when I say to them, I'm like, don't really worry about the sets and reps, just worry about the intensity. They're like, what? Like, because people think there's this magic formula. It's like, you got to do fucking 3 sets of 10 to 12 or 3 sets of this or whatever. But in my opinion, that just ends up leading to, well, I've done 12 reps, that's that.
And it's so dependent on the person again, isn't it? Like you could get a beginner and then literally 1 set on 1 muscle group would be like good enough. And then as soon as they've like progressed that, obviously can start increasing the sets. But when I find like when you get like really advanced and you've got that skill of training with like high intensities, then those sets start coming back down again. If you get me, so you start a pretty low volume, then you go pretty high, and then once that intensity is up there, then it's pulled back to like pretty low volume again ish.
Mm-hmm. It's like a skill being able to do a really good intense set and being able to get what you want out of it and get it done in one set, like it takes a lot of skill. And sometimes I don't get that right. That's why I end up doing like 3 or 4 sometimes. But it's cool to hear that as well. Like just in a world where everyone's obsessed with sets and reps and logbooks, you're just like, nah, just go in and lift. That's really it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's definitely the way that like I've always been, and I enjoy training more than anything else. And I've tried like even changing my split. I've tried the login, but I've just seen after a couple of sessions, and I mean like after like 2 sessions, the enjoyment part of it's just started to kind of dwindle away. And I'm like, I am in here to enjoy this. Like this is my time out of the full day that I enjoy the most, and that's literally it. And that again kind of goes back to me going into the sessions and not progressing. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it can hurt a bit, but at the end of the day, like I'm going in because I just enjoy to go in and lift as heavy as I can on that day and then go home. And that's me satisfied. Like that is my need for every single day that needs to be satisfied. And that's me. But now I feel as if it's getting to the point where people are getting so over obsessed about tracking and progressing in the gym that they're thinking that is the only way. And then what you're seeing is that's them putting a massive sacrifice on loads of things because they're getting so obsessed about numbers. So they're sacrificing their form and everything's going to shit from that. Then they're going in and they're not beating a number. So immediately they're depressed and the whole session goes to shit. Or they go in and they don't beat a number at their first exercise and they just go home because they're like, oh, this is not meant to be today. I'm not meant to be here. And that's the day when it's like, just fucking go in and lift. Like, what is hard about going in and lifting? Like, everybody knows how to put effort into something. So just go in, apply effort, and you'll be absolutely grand. And that's definitely something that I've just, like I say, I enjoy to train over anything else. So I want to be able to know that I'm going to go in, even on the days that I'm tired and feeling wrecked, that I'm still going in. And once I get in, I'm fine. I'll go in and enjoy myself and then leave.
What I find with people who do log and track absolutely everything, I think we said it in the last podcast, they're pretty much built like that pen. That they're fucking skinny as fuck. Most of them, not all of them.
Dude, I feel built like that pen right now. Fuck you.
Yeah,
you're a few weeks out. It's okay.
You're just too like over analyzing absolutely everything, and they're just forgetting about the main part, like you just said, Khifie, about the intensity and enjoying the training.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part.
Definitely. I was watching the Straight from the Table from the Northern Irish show, Khifie, and I must say, like, you made Dave Kay look a little bit small. You know that? I wonder if Dave will listen to this.
That's what happens. Dave's gonna listen to this, and then every Straight from the Table video now, Dave's not gonna stand in the middle.
Yeah, it was all angles, Dave. If you're listening to this, I know you've got him. I do know you've got him, but
to be fair, Dave rinsed me at the Britain, so I mean, Dave doesn't need any angles. He knows that.
Yeah, that's it. It's usually that van shot outside the Body Academy. A guy gets right.
Oh yeah, that's a game over one. That's like Dave's shot to just kind of just stick the knife in everybody and just be like, nobody is going to touch me. But then and everything else, he's like, yeah, I'm going to get the worst angle here, so like I look the smallest, and then just turn up and just smoke everybody. That's pretty much just what Dave does.
The even worse thing was Alex was stood there as well, and Alex is like same as me, like 6 weeks out right now, and he's just like looking like death. It's just like, yeah, he had no chance. He had no chance in that one. But
what's your first show?
What's that?
What's your first show?
Mine. Yeah, I'm going to do the Midlands. It depends. If Khifie's judging, then hopefully I'm on his good side by now, and maybe we'll do that one.
Is that why you asked him on the podcast?
Yeah.
Well, this the next one. What I'll do is I'll send you my PayPal link, and obviously we can work out something, and I'll be there.
I thought it'd be a brown envelope job, cash. But yeah. So next week we've got another BNBF judge on. We're just going to get them all on, try to get them all on site. That's why I was careful what I was saying about Dave there. I was like, fuck, Dave might be judging. I'll take it back.
I'll try and get some inside information. So the next 6 weeks of podcasts, you can get at least one judge on.
I need some PCA judges on. Hang on.
If you can find out who's going to be competing as a lightweight, I'm going to get them on and be, oh, you don't look too good, mate. You sure you're feeling all right?
You need another 4 weeks? 4 weeks? Yeah. I think there's a Northern qualifier after.
To be fair, that was my original plan, the Northern. And then, I don't know, just I think it was Vicky that mentioned the Midlands to me because Alex is doing it, and then I don't know, I just got fixated on that, and then it's like, well, it's 2 weeks sooner on this. I suppose the only thing with the Northerns, you run that risk of like, if I did fuck up and didn't qualify for the British,
aye.
But
100%.
if I didn't, it's maybe a sign I shouldn't do it.
Well, I mean,
but
it's always one of them things, isn't it? With it being the last qualifier.
Yeah. Ideally, I would have done the Scottish, but just I was away that weekend, so I couldn't do that. So that was a bit annoying. But the Scottish is obviously handy. It's fucking 20 minutes from the house. It's like you don't need to worry about hotels and shit like that. And that's the stresses that come with competing, isn't it? When you're like in different places and fucking trying to get your food sorted. And yeah, it's not great, to be honest. I would have rather competed at home. But you've done it in obviously Miami. Like, how did you find that? That must have been tough.
That was the first year was definitely the hardest because I went out and I was like, what do I even do here? Like, it was funny because like when I competed as a teen, I went out myself. Obviously, I was like with the team and that, and everybody was like super helpful. But I was also like out there myself, and I went into like what is it? I can't even remember the place, Whole Foods or something like that. The big place was. I was going in, and I was just like, because I was obviously at the back end of prep as well. I was going in and just spotting like Oreos rather than looking for like chicken. Do you know what I mean? So it was hard that way. And then obviously whenever we went to Miami, we stayed in like hotels and that. So nobody was staying in like Airbnbs or anything. So we obviously never had like cooking facilities or anything like that. So everybody was just kind of working off of like microwaves in the hall of the hotel and that. Like, don't get me wrong, they were super helpful, the hotel, towards everybody competing because it was at like that convention center bit. But it was just a case of I'd done a lot of traveling with the wrestling beforehand, so I was always having to prep loads of food and take it with me over the course of like 3, 4, 5 days. So I think I just kind of treated it the same as that whenever I went away to Miami and just tried to prep as much as I possibly could. And to be fair, even like now, whenever we go away for like 3, 4 days at a time, even if I've got like 6 meals per day that needs to be cooked, I'll just prep absolutely everything and not have to worry about like cooking when I get there and things like that, because I just feel as if that sends my stress levels through the roof, and I'm just not one to try and stay as stress free as I possibly can.
Absolutely. That's bodybuilding turns you into like a little bitch, really. It's like you're going somewhere, you're like, oh, how can I prep my meals?
Pretty much. That's literally it. It's like, so I'm here like heading away for like 3, 4, 5 days and having to batch cook like 10 kilo of potato just to make sure that I'm covered for a few days.
It's definitely easier when you're prepping than in the off season, like when you've got a lot of food to eat. Like I'll be honest, like if I'm going somewhere for 3 or 4 days in the off season, I'm just fucking winging it. I'll maybe take a few protein bars, maybe take like a shake or two, but there's no way I'm prepping all the food. I just can't be arsed with that. But you don't have to either. That's the thing. Like, but when I have to, you're prepping all the food. Like when we're over in Ireland the other week, like first thing I done when I got there, food shop, food prepped. Like I took some with me, food shop, food prepped, make sure everything's prepped for the week. And as you say, get that stress kind of out of the way. And it's like, it's one of those things, like when you're a bodybuilder, you do whatever it takes, won't you?
Yeah, 100%.
Some clients can take note of that, do whatever it takes. Cool. So look, we've took up enough of your time, Khifie. Obviously, thank you for coming on. Is there anything you'd like to add to the end of this?
No, all is good. I think I've went over pretty much everything.
I think you've covered life.
I think I would just like to see less people using D handles in the gym and more people on platforms and lifting heavier weights. But apart from that, I mean, that's really it.
Depends how you use the D handles. We could get into a debate there, but it depends how you use them. What was the one you posted once? Was it a fucking Smith machine or something? With D handles on it.
What the fuck's gone on there? I don't mind fucking people on the pet deck putting D handles on it. I was like, what the fuck? What, it doesn't do anything to it.
Do you know the gym shot pull down machine, the plate loaded single arm pull down machine?
Oh, we've got that, yeah.
Well, yeah, people put D handles on that in Ultra Durham, so that's
what the fuck?
That's a D handle on a D handle.
The handles are like that for a reason. You don't need to add a.
That's how you D handle a D handle. So
I would actually add an extra D handle to the D handle just to be safe. You know that?
I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but
to be fair, you must see some fucking mental shit in that gym. Like compared to what I see in the Body Academy and probably what James sees in Metcon, because they're smaller gyms, you must see some crazy shit. Like what is the most crazy thing you've seen apart from that D handle on the D handle?
I think, to be fair, I think it would be something like that. But the majority of the time you go in, there will be D handles on pretty much most machines, like your pull down machines and that. So obviously there's a lot of like ISO pull down machines in Durham. There's always D handles on them. There's always a set of D handles at the pec decks as well. And it's just like, to be fair, like a lot of people do spend the majority of their sessions on a cable machine, which is like
that's everywhere, to be fair.
Don't get me wrong, right? These exercises have got their places, but it's when you see a lot of people nowadays just kind of thinking that is the only way and that's the best way kind of thing. So they go in and they've got a coach, which again is fantastic, but this coach is then programming them to pretty much do their whole back session on a fucking cable machine. And you just see people wasting time and wasting time and wasting time, and then they get 6-8 months into their run of like what they've been doing with their coach, and obviously they've hardly made that much progression, and then they're kind of like, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, well, that kind of is what you're doing wrong. Maybe move away from that and obviously have a little look into other things. Like, don't get me wrong, like I say, cable stuff has got its like place in that, but I think just there's too much stuff nowadays where it's just like
what winds me up, the single arm cable pull down or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
like the straight arm thing you're talking about.
That's it. Yeah. So they're standing up and doing it, and just thinking you could lift so much more if you literally just got underneath like a lat pull down thing, put your legs underneath it, and then just did a proper pull down rather than just fucking doing this fanny shit with a cuff and a straight arm. It's like you can't load that as much as what you would do that. It's just pointless.
People just go to the extremes though, don't they? They're either, all barbells, dumbbells, or they're fucking all cables, and it's like they're all fucking tools. Use them all. Use them all. Like, why fucking? But people just love to go to those extremes. And then with the D handle stuff, like you say, some of those machines, some of those like ISO pull downs, actually, it might make a lot of sense depending on the setup. But people see that and then they misinterpret that, and then they're like, "Well, I'm going to put a D handle on everything." It's like, no, you don't see if you don't get it, just fucking leave it. Just fucking leave it, and just
even some of the pull downs. Like if you don't get it at all, you could make it like so much worse. It's like that pull down, it drops off nice hammer strength when you sit back on it slightly, and then I'm seeing people like de-handling it, and it's just getting so much like harder down there. Why have you just put a fucking de-handle and made it completely terrible?
So something my dad said is like someone that like sort of understands something is worse than someone that doesn't understand it at all, and that's exactly what we're fucking talking about. Like people that are just see other people doing it on Instagram. It's like, that tells a tale. If you're getting your learning from Instagram, apart from like our Instagrams, but like if you're getting all your learning from Instagram,
apart from
then that's probably a red flag. But oh fuck, I better not say.
Oh fucking hell, no. So what we actually like cutting out this podcast and then putting it on Instagram just because we're gonna get a big trigger off some people. So how we triggered people today?
I'm not saying anything. I was getting
it was you who fucking did it.
Yeah, I know. People were going to chin me, weren't they?
Yeah, you were. He was getting it.
Last week, or was it last week, 2 weeks ago on this, I said that coaching apps are red flags, and people were at me. People were not happy.
But you didn't, there's no context, really. But I know what you meant in terms of like the influencers shitty apps where it's just like fucking copy and pasted and they send out whatever when they're taking on so many fucking clients or whatever. Rather than that, Kahunas looks good though. Looks like a decent app.
Yeah, but, everyone seems to be talking about that, but people lost their shit. It's like if they put something up about a spreadsheet, I don't think I'd be commenting on it saying, "Well, actually, ours are very good, and we're actually making it very client designed." It's like fuck off.
Yeah, people got very, very upset, and I was like, I could tell like people getting so emotional. I mean, there was like some guy who commented it about 30 times, and I was like, fucking hell.
I think he was on the wind up. To be fair, I think he was like enjoying winding up that Ryan, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny.
People have got too much time.
You probably get some shit on your Instagram. You've got a lot of followers, so you must get some weird shit, yeah?
To be honest, the majority of the stuff is just about gear. Like, I pretty much, that's like the only shit I get is about gear.
Might name this Khifie's going on gear, and I'll get loads of listens.
Just do it. Oh, mate, to be fair, like, I genuinely would not even, I say go for it.
You get a lot of listens.
Yeah,
people will listen to it. They'll get to the end of this about that's Connor guy's a cunt. First he insulted my lap, then he insulted my cable exercises, and now he's fucking lied to me. Like, fuck, getting banned. I'm going to get cancelled soon.
Conor Moran, red flag.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, apparently. But cool. We'll wrap it up at that. Well, thanks for coming on, Khifie, and we appreciate your time. And
I appreciate it.
Most people that listen to this are going to already follow you, but if you want to let us know where we can find you online, you're also a coach as well. So put that out there. Advertise yourself.
Yeah, so over on Insta, I am Khifie West _. I also have my coaching page, which is just made by Khifie _. And YouTube's also another platform that I'm relatively committed to, you could say. Uploads on there every single week, which is just Khifie West. But apart from that, they are really my main places that you'll find me every single day. And again, coaching side of things as well. Again, it's all over Insta, so
no You're not a TikToker, are you?
Oh man, whenever I can remember, like I went through a phase where I was like putting so much time into making TikToks, because whenever I upload videos, there's always people in the background either staring at me or there's always reactions. And if I genuinely had more interest in making TikToks and making reaction videos, I reckon I could be a self-made millionaire by now. But I've got no interest in making them. And
I've got this picture in my head of you doing a fucking funny dance, a TikTok dance or something now by the deadlift bar.
Don't, because I'll end up doing it.
you not just repost any like reels you put on Instagram. That's all.
Yeah, I pretty much just repost what goes on Insta. I'll try and remember to repost it on TikTok, but I don't know why I always forget about it. I'll go like a month and I'll be like, oh fuck, like
it's because you're not 12.
Well, true.
Growing out of it. Right, guys, we'll wrap it up at that. Thanks again for everyone to listening. Thanks for Khifie for coming on. Thanks for James for making this one, because you weren't on the last one. So cheers, guys.